George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. We know that this is a critical election year for the issues that are important to our community, especially and particularly the Black community. So when I was thinking about what and who I could talk to about this issue, I could think of no one other than Hazel Dukes, the chair of the NAACP in New York State, former national president, civil rights activist. The sister has been on the case for many years, as particularly in New York City, around the country, and around the state. And so I thought it would be appropriate if we had the NAACP chair in New York State talk to us about the importance of voting. Before we do that, though, I wanted to give you some space to remember a dear colleague, Dr. Calvin O. Butts, who was the senior pastor at the Abyssinian Baptist Church, who we lost this past week. And so we'll start with that.
Thank you so much, first, Mr. Kilpatrick, for reaching out to our Western Region Director, Linda Brown Robinson, to see what we were doing. And during this time, we do pause. I don't say to moan, I said to celebrate.
Yes.
I had the privilege of working with Dr. Butts for over 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
We address the issues of our community. People don't know this, but since in 50 years, the first high school that was built in Harlem was built by the Abyssinia Baptist Church and its corporation. And it's the Thurgood Marshall Academy. We have a lower school and we have a high school. That was done about 8 years ago. Dr. Butts have fed people spiritual, but more than that, he has fed the community on issues. He opened his doors to everyone, whether you was rich, poor, you were from New York or you were from England. The church was packed because he preached the social gospel. Mm-hmm. We know Jesus is not coming back, just like we know Martin Luther King Jr. is not coming back. He preached the word of what we were to do as disciples here on earth while we were living, feed the hungry, clothe the naked. He vaccinated when we couldn't get vaccine to our seniors in Harlem. He opened up his church. The vaccine was brought there by the city and by the state. And he, every Sunday, outside of his sanctuary, there is the van continuously.
Yes, it is.
People go, and the children can go. He have daycare centers for our young people. He touched every phase of our life as human beings, not just for African Americans, but for all people that needed assistance and help. So our oak tree has fallen, but he left us prepared to do the kind of work that he worked with us in doing. And so while we are saddened, we are celebrating the life of Dr. Calvin O. Butts. As you know, he served as president of Westbury for some 20-some years, where he touched the lives of boys and girls who never thought they would be able to go to college. He made it a place of welcoming, and many young people who had thought it not that they would be. He saw to it that they were having a quality and an excellent education. So it's no phase of the human touch that Dr. Butts did not give to not just Harlem.
Right.
Butts was global. Dr. Butts have preached in nearly every state in this union. Yeah. People would for him. So we in Harlem, while we had him, the world had to see the excellence and the kind of strength that Dr. Butts brought as a great African-American minister of the gospel. But he told us about what to do here on earth. So thank you for giving me a chance to explain how we feel. Our membership chair, Gloria Bitterfield, is a member of Abbott Senior. So Abyssinia is a part of our NAACP family.
It's so important. I'm glad you mentioned that. I had the opportunity to visit a few weeks ago. Obviously, he wasn't there. He was under hospice care at that point.
Right.
But I, visited, my sister is a member there, and I visited Abyssinia many times. He's been to Syracuse University to offer support as well, and to speak the truth into young men's lives. And I remember when he was first appointed as the president of SUNY Westbury, and people said, well, how are you going to do this? And how are you going to do that? And I loved his answer. He says, well, why can't I do it? Right?
Absolutely.
Does that sound like something he would say?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And he did both of them wonderfully and well.
Yeah.
And I don't know many pulpits across this state and this nation that they haven't sent for Calvin Butts to stand.
Yeah. What? In fact, he was also very critical in talking to some of the local pastors here not too long ago. Well, it was long ago now, but I mean, I did have an opportunity to speak with him. You're right.
A Black Commission on AIDS.
Yes.
He was doing the healthy, choose a healthy life that started. Matter of fact, the governor of New York State gave them a grant to talk about choose healthy life. And he was all over getting ministers involved in that program. He and Reverend Sharpton was chair and co-chair.
And when you think about it, right, it's not only obviously those things that he's done and the disciples, right, the people that have come under him. We look at Senator Raphael Warnock, a son of Abyssinian, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Many young men and women,
and women. Yes.
And women have gone out to do wonderful things.
And so I mentioned Raphael Warnock because when you think about what's happening nationally, right? That's some, call your people in Georgia because Miss Dukes, some mess is about to go down in Georgia if we don't do what we got to do down there. And
absolutely.
So what are the priorities for the NAACP in this election cycle? We know that early voting, by the time people hear this conversation, will have ended today.
On Sunday.
Right. Yep.
State bullying.
Right.
Let me tell you, NAACP, we nationally, we have what is called voter hustle, where we have phone numbers, cell numbers, which our young people deal with. Most people don't have lines in their home anymore.
Right.
They're able to get a grant and give that. In Georgia, they did 2 tiers. They did the first tier, which was Wisconsin, Georgia, Florida, of course, where voter suppression really was going on.
Yes.
And we've been there for over almost 2 years, working on the ground, getting people registered, getting people voted to vote, having forums, educating them on the issues. As you know, in the last 3 weeks, crime has been the main issue by the other party, which is racism.
Yes, it is.
It's racism.
It's the whole Willie. What's the guy that George Bush, the Willie, what's his name?
Willie Horton.
Thank you.
It's the Willie Horton thing.
Yeah.
Racism. So last Sunday I did 5 churches in Nassau County, where I lived for 32 years. And that's the word that will send people out spending. They don't care anything about it. So when you talk about education, nothing has been said about education. Nothing has been said about affordable housing. Nothing has been said about increasing our Social Security and retirement. They said and take it away. And so those are the issues that our people must hold elected officials accountable for. The majority of the minority people right now, because we are majority, Black and brown folks, Latinos, Asians, we are coming to be the majority.
That's right.
And so they are using the tactics to tell people we are taking away from them. Look what's happening in the Supreme Court with affirmative action.
With affirmative action, that's right. It's on the docket right now.
On the docket right now.
Yeah.
We never said we wanted to take anything from anybody. This 114th organization, as I said to, as you know, here in Boston, they just elected an Asian woman as a mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat with her today at lunch, had lunch with her, and I said to her, oh, she said, what could she do? I said, you go out and talk about, if it wasn't for the NAACP, Shirley Chisholm, you would have never had a chance to run for mayor.
Right. That's right.
So we, the African American, when we make laws and fight for justice, we include everyone.
But don't you think, Ms. Dukes, that history that you just talked about with Shirley Chisholm paving the way for many other women to be taken seriously and run,
wouldn't have thought to run. Obama wouldn't have thought to run.
Right. So we're not putting that, we're not doing, I think we can do a better job, let me say it that way, and making sure that history is embedded in our culture and in our thinking. And I think we have to do a better job of that, of making sure we repeat what you just said, because it gets lost.
And especially with our young people.
Yes.
They know it. It's no curriculum in school for civic learning. And at home, we don't have the Chet magazine anymore. We don't have the magazine anymore to showcase that you come from a great stock of people, young people.
That's right.
And people died. Medgar Evers died for you to have the right to vote.
That's right.
As civil rights, he was out registering people the night that they assassinated him in his yard. So why would you say that your vote don't make a difference? So I've been around preaching wherever I could, telling people that this is a critical election. Those people who are trying to control the Senate, they will roll back all the games. They have started. They have started already. And we have Clarence Thomas sitting up there, a disgrace to the life of Thurgood Marshall.
He and his wife.
Carrying on this foolishness about rolling back, taking, people have a right to choose who they want to love.
That's right.
People have a right to send their children, but public education will be here for all children.
That's
I don't care where to send their children, but I do know this: when they can't pay the tuition, and when Johnny is not doing what they want him to do at the charter school, stand up like he's a soldier and not being a child, they send them back to the public schools. So we must always fight for public education. Always. Make sure that it's excellent. Make sure that we have the resources. In New York State, why is it that Scarsdale schools are better than Harlem schools? We all pay taxes.
That's right.
We all pay it in some form. And so we have to use our voice. I'm saying to the young people, it's not the bullet, it's the ballot.
Today's the ballot, right?
It's the ballot.
Malcolm said it was the ballot of the bullet, but it is the ballot today. Hazel Dukes, the New York State chair of the NAACP, in conversation about the role that you teaching us, you're schooling us that what the NAACP's message is to voters. And I want you to continue, but I want you to talk to the brothers, because I want you to talk to Black men in particular, because I think something's happening with us that ain't good in this election cycle, or is it my perception? Somebody we kind of confused right now, Sister Dukes.
It's not your perception. In Georgia, they took a survey and the Black males said they was not going to come out and vote for Stacey Abrams. They didn't think it was time. We always work together. We as the Black women has been the backbone of our community. We reared the children. We come home and made sure husband's dinner was on time. And we washed the clothes while we let them rest for their job. So where is this dividing come from? This against each other. That's not what our foreparents, that's not what our ancestors. If we're going to honor our ancestors, let's honor them in the right way. I tell people, listen, if you're not going to do the work, don't have a Martin Luther King Jr. anniversary.
Okay.
Don't have a celebration of his life if you're not going to take up what he left for us to do. Mary Cloud Bethune, in her last will and testament, left a legacy for us to go by. So when we know our history, we the elders.
Yeah.
We got to teach it to these young people. We got to tell them they come from a great race of people, and we, as a race of people, we have made America what she is today.
Mm.
We built the institutions. The White House was built by us.
That's right. That's right. You know, Hazel Deuce again, New York State Chair, NAACP. What is it that keeps you going? Because, you know, we know that these elections are critical, but you've been out here for a minute.
44 years of giving. My dad was a Pullman porter.
Go ahead.
And I had a chance to meet A. Philip Randolph. And these men bonded together to make it better, started a union for them. So I know what unions have done for African Americans to get us into what we called a middle class, where we own homes, where our children could go to college. We could pay for it, HUBCs, you know, going to Harvard. We was going to HUBCs that prepared us to be. And so my commitment to myself, as well as to my ancestors, I remember both my grandparents, on my dad and mother, they were absolutely staunch believers in the Christianity as well as the social part. They couldn't explain it, but I saw what they did. I saw that I didn't know anybody was poor in Montgomery, Alabama.
Where you grew up?
There was poor people because everybody had something to eat. And if they didn't, my grandmother saw that they did. Everyone had somewhere to stay because families took you in. There wasn't any homeless people. I didn't know what that word was about because we were a community. We cared for each other. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Feed the hungry, the Beatitudes, they lived it. And so for me, that's what I was endowed with, and that's what I give back to my community.
And you've been doing it for so long. You know, so right now, you said the NAACP nationally, there's a voter hustle thing.
We've been out last Saturday in New York. We had a caravan to go through the communities. We have door knockers that we are getting out to the New York City Housing Authority people because they want to sell the land. Where are they going to go if they sell those places like they did in Chicago when they knocked down Cabrini and built all the luxury houses on the water? And so we got so many issues and challenge. I can't believe that anyone who is not under a rock will not go out to the polls and vote.
Yeah.
Our life depends on this. It's men and women that make policy that affects our light bill, how much we pay for light. Look at the water situation in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Ohio. And we having climate change everywhere across this country.
Look, 70 degrees in Syracuse this week.
Absolutely. And the people
November.
who make policy don't look like us, don't care about us. So why don't you go and make a choice? So you can go on their door and tell them, look, you are not doing right by my community. You are not building houses that we can afford. You're not giving our school the resources that they need so our children can compete in a global market. All our kids need to have quality. We need libraries. We need technology. We don't need to talk about Jack and Jill went up the hill. Those are no hills. The hills for the is in the tech world.
Look at what happened in Syracuse this week. We had Micron is committing $100 billion over the next 20 years.
But we got to be ready to get to jobs. You
better be ready, because they're going to hire at least 9,000 people in this. Okay, 9,000.
And so we sure that our children are having people who are prepared, not somebody who's been teaching 30 years and don't know how to use a computer. I was already behind because COVID. Our kids lost 2 years. 2 years. They were already behind.
Right. And they got further behind.
But
let me ask you this. Because you said something.
School board.
Yeah.
We ought to be at the school board meetings.
Yes.
See where the budget, where the money is going.
Yeah. And that's going to take some dedication, and that's what the NAACP is about. We've got a governor's race here in New York. We've got senators' races here in New York. We've got to hold on to these seats.
That's right. And we got elected officials in New York State. We got the speaker. We have the majority leader. And so they want to take that away. How can we sit back and let that happen? We got the power. That was our team last year.
So how do you answer this? Because this is what you said, crime is a racist issue, but here's what people have not been able to explain. Because what's being played up is the impact of bail reform. Because bail reform was good, or it had good intentions, but what they're promoting is a lot of the people who have committed crimes after, because, quote unquote, because of bail reform. So this is the challenge I feel that we have, because there's that piece that people are not able to explain. So how do you explain it?
I explain it because you look at the data.
Go ahead.
You look at the data. The crimes that is committed is not by people who got out on bail. They are people with mental illness. That's what we have. Most of the things that is happening is mental ill. The man with the hammer at Nancy Pelosi's house, he didn't have bail reform. He's got a mental problem because he's been indoctrinated by the white radical extremists. And when you have people who do white collar crime, and our people only had, CNN just showed where a man had only, I think, 3 pounds or 3 ounces of cocaine, and he's the longest service in prison. When white young man had the same amount, his parents could put up their homes. And so the bail reform was to have equity and take the discrimination out of what it was doing. Judges still have a right to keep people in jail. The judges who are lying, saying that the bills tied their hands, no bill tied their hands. Read that bill. It give the judge the same discretion, that if they get a person in front of them that has committed a heinous crime, have been repeated felonies, they don't have to let them out. They don't have to let them out. But they are young men. Look at Central Park 5. Right. That story.
Yeah. You start with that.
Park 5.
Right. We just had Yusuf Salam in Syracuse a few weeks ago.
Okay. So, we know it's been discrimination in the policies. And so what we tried to do was make it an even playing field, because we got men and women now who are in prison system serving terms that is unheard of for the crimes that was committed by selling cocaine, which I'm against it. Absolutely. It ruined our community, but we didn't bring it all in. There was other people that brought it into our community, and they have not spent a day in jail.
To me, the critical part, then you talk about criminal justice, those are issues. The critical part to me is this whole thing with January 6th and how people could just make up a story, make up a lie. You got people who are running for office who contributed to that lie, like the governor who's running, the guy who's running against Governor Hochul, who contributed to that lie. And as a country, as a community, it seems that we're seemingly allowing this to fester. It used to be that there was some accountability. Now people just make up stuff and then they go with it. And if they can get people to support it, more power to them. That's what we have to fight against.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That this is unheard of. Why we should be in this tight of a race with somebody who's a Trumpism, who supported the January 6th, which was absolutely undemocratic.
Right.
All should be in jail forever.
Forever.
Light of the day. Right. And none of them have gone to jail.
Not one.
Time that some of our Black and brown people are in jail for.
Right. I mean, some people, but not the like Trump and the people at the top.
People, the real leaders, right.
Right.
Around. And we had DeSanto, who's been sending poor people to New York, putting them on buses, flying to Massachusetts, lying to them, and said, we think we are sanctuary state, so he's sending them to us. I mean, this is unheard of and uncalled for. And we should go out and vote because we have the power. If we vote, we can turn these things around. That's in Georgia, that's in Arizona, that's in Florida, and most certainly here in New York. We have people, we have registered people in Long Island right this moment. My Long Island region director, Tracy Edwards, did the homework to see how many people do not vote in midterms. Looked at the record of what it is. And today, we got a grant in Long Island, and she's hiring young people to knock on doors, to give out literature and say, because we have initiatives on the ballot. Turn that ballot over. One is for all New Yorkers, and 3 of them are just for New York City. The one for all New Yorkers to vote on is about clean water.
Yeah, clean water. In fact, I voted already. I voted already.
Absolutely. Turn the ballot over. So we've been educating people on that. She's got young people out. She's got a grant, and she's hired young people, giving them a stipend to go out in the community and knock on doors and get people out before Sunday. They shouldn't wait until Tuesday.
Let's get them out.
Great weather. Let's go out. Let's vote.
Well, by the time they hear this, this is the last day to early vote. It's polls close at 5:00 on Sunday. This is Sunday, November 6th. Polls close at 5:00. In the meantime, let's make sure that we do it now. Don't wait. Do it now. But also support the NAACP, right? The oldest, baddest, boldest, right?
Any ministers that is listening to us, I want you on Sunday. You ought to stand up in the pulpit, and anybody who in your congregation is ready to vote, you should tell them, take their souls to the polls.
Let's go.
Take souls to the polls.
Let's go. Let's do it. We got to make a difference. Hazel Dukes, listen, I just feel like you are part of the iconic fabric of social justice in this community, in this country. And I think we just have to honor the commitment you've made to make sure that our communities are clothed, are fed, have the clean access to water, that they have a quality education, quality health care. You've been on this for a minute, and we cannot let people like you down who's still working out here doing
Absolutely.
the work.
And especially our ancestors who
That's
died.
Right. Yes.
Who did this right. And here all we have to do, yes, they try to put voter suppression, but they are not doing what they did to our ancestors to keep them. And so we got to keep our race. We got to keep our people who gave so much to us. We got to honor them by honoring ourselves. Go out and vote.
That's a message from Hazel Dukes, New York State Chair, NAACP, former national president, but a sister who's been fighting for us for many, many years. Hazel Dukes, vote 2022. If you're a preacher listening, take your souls to the polls. If you are a organization, let's make sure not only in New York State and Syracuse,
all the big organizations, all the leadership, all the NAACPers, your job is to continue knocking on doors, go into the beauty shops, go into the barber shops, and tell the message that our life is on the line, that we got to save ourselves from ourselves.
Amen. Hazel Dukes, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
What a pleasure.
It was a pleasure indeed. Inspiration for the nation.